So, let's start. Number 9. Sewn into a sack with a snake, a dog, and a rooster. Let's say you just murdered your dad in ancient Rome. First off, wow. Second, you weren't just getting executed. No, Rome had a very specific punishment for patricide called poena culae. It basically translates to, you did what? Into the sack you go. And not just any sack. You'd be sewn into a leather bag along with a live dog, a snake, a rooster, and in some versions, a monkey. Why those animals? No one's totally sure, but historians guess they represented different symbolic punishments, like the snake for betrayal, the dog for uncleanliness, and the rooster because early wake-up calls? Who knows? Roman justice wasn't exactly chill. Once everything was squirming and hissing inside the sack, the whole bundle of nightmare fuel was tossed into a river. You drowned, but not before being scratched, bitten, and completely freaked out by your accidental roommates. The idea wasn't just to kill you, it was to undo your place in the family of humanity. A poetic way of saying, you messed up so bad, even your death has to be cursed. Honestly, if you're inventing a punishment that sounds like a deleted scene from Saw, maybe take a step back and ask why you're running a society. Number 8. Wearing a shame flute until you die. In medieval Germany, they had a weirdly musical way of punishing bad musicians, or just people who annoyed the town council. Enter the shame flute. This wasn't a punishment involving a flute, it was the punishment itself. Basically, they'd strap a metal flute contraption, complete with keys and mouthpiece, around your neck. But it wasn't playable. It was more like a metal collar shaped like a giant recorder. Your fingers were locked onto the instrument as if you were playing it, and your neck was stuck in a brace so everyone could admire your new talents. Then they'd parade you through the streets, sometimes with bells on your feet so people could hear you coming. The town would laugh, point, and shame you. It wasn't deadly unless you died of embarrassment or someone threw a rock too hard, but it was insanely dehumanizing. One poor guy got this because he was bad at playing the trumpet. That's it. Not a murderer, not a thief, just a dude with questionable lung control. Medieval towns really said, you suck at jazz? Wear this iron flute of humiliation forever. So yeah, maybe skip band practice if you ever time traveled to 15th century Germany. Number 7. Sitting on the dunking stool for gossiping. In early modern England, gossiping wasn't just annoying. It was basically a crime against the peace. And if you were a woman who talked too much, congrats. The local authorities had a punishment just for you, the dunking stool. Here's how it worked. First, they'd strap you to a wooden chair that was attached to a long beam. Then, in full view of the townsfolk, you'd be dunked repeatedly into a nearby river or pond. Not enough to drown you, just enough to get you soaked, embarrassed, and cold enough to think twice about that hot neighborhood gossip. It was mostly used on women labeled as scolds, basically anyone deemed too mouthy, opinionated, or just not quiet enough. Men? Rarely, if ever. Women? Oh, all the time. Some records show people being dunked 5 or 6 times a day for days on end. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a watery rebranding of your entire social identity, and because it was public, it became more like entertainment. Townspeople would gather, cheer, and treat your humiliation like a free show. Imagine TikTok, but 300 years ago and way damper. Number 6. Forced to wear a donkey head in public. So you told a bad joke at a medieval banquet, or maybe you got a little too rowdy during a town meeting. You weren't dangerous, just kind of annoying. In medieval France, that didn't mean a slap on the wrist, it meant being paraded through town wearing a giant donkey head strapped to your face in full view of neighbors, merchants, and anyone eager for gossip. Why the donkey? Simple. Donkeys were the medieval symbol of foolishness, stubbornness, and general idiocy. If you were accused of being a fool for behavior ranging from lying to just saying something dumb at the wrong time, you could be sentenced to this ridiculous walk of shame. Some towns had actual carved wooden masks, complete with floppy ears and buck teeth. Others painted them to look cartoonishly exaggerated, making you resemble a badly drawn animal in a medieval doodle. You'd be marched through the streets while children and adults alike pelted you with rotten vegetables, insults, and whatever else they had lying around. Sometimes even clumps of mud for extra flair. The punishment wasn't just about mocking you. It was about making sure you never forgot you were the butt of the joke. And if you refused to wear it, you'd get beaten, fined, or worse, they'd make the mask permanent. Yes, in some cases the donkey mask was ironed and locked in place for days at a time, forcing you to eat, drink, and endure public humiliation nonstop. So yeah, medieval folks didn't do mild embarrassment. They went straight to psychological warfare. Number 5, branding your face with a giant V. In colonial Virginia, if you were caught stealing, especially food, clothing, or something petty, you might think, okay, I'll do some jail time. But no. The court's solution? Hot metal to the face right there in front of curious onlookers who probably brought snacks to watch the spectacle. They'd brand the letter V for villain into your forehead with a red hot iron rod. Not your arm, not your shoulder, your face. That way, every single person you ever encountered afterward would know exactly what you'd done. No escape, no fresh start. You were marked for life. And the scar wasn't subtle. Repeat offenders got additional letters branded depending on their crimes. One poor man in Massachusetts got an R for rogue and an F for forger. Another guy was sentenced to be branded on both cheeks because one side apparently wasn't enough shame real estate. Imagine trying to hold a casual conversation like that. And here's the kicker. Some of these people were just stealing bread to survive. The punishment wasn't about justice. It was about fear. Colonial leaders wanted everyone to know that even the smallest act of disobedience would be met with permanent public humiliation. Forget social prison. You were basically a walking crime billboard, doomed to be recognized by strangers until the day you died. Number 4, tied to a chair surrounded by itching powder. Imagine getting sentenced to itching. That was real life in 19th century Prussia, where minor crimes like swearing in public, insulting a superior, or not attending church could land you in what was basically a human mousetrap filled with misery. Here's how it worked. Authorities would sit you in a specially designed wooden chair, lock your hands and feet in place, and then pour itching powder all over your clothes and body. This wasn't your average prank store kind. This was the industrial strength skin burning version, usually made from powdered rose hips, crushed pine needles, and stinging nettles. Then they'd leave you there for hours, sometimes days, unable to move or scratch, just squirming. Occasionally, guards would come by to toss on more powder just to keep things fresh. You'd be released only when they decided you were sufficiently miserable and humbled. It was cheap, it didn't kill you, and it made sure you never disrespected the law again. And honestly, it probably caused some serious long-term trauma, because nothing says, I'll be good, like involuntary itching-induced madness. Number 3, forced to smell your own crime. In certain regions of ancient China, there was a peculiar punishment reserved for thieves who stole stinky things, like spoiled food, used garments, or animal waste meant for fertilizer. Instead of cutting off hands or throwing people in jail, authorities made them smell the evidence. For days, they'd tie the thief to a post in the center of town and hang the stolen item around their neck. A dead fish, a moldy basket of tofu, a sack of manure, whatever the offense, you wore it like a perfume from hell. Even worse, people were encouraged to walk by and take a big whiff, not of the item, but of you, because the point wasn't just shame, it was olfactory punishment. If you smelled like what you stole, everyone would remember what you did. Some towns even had stench logs to record how bad each criminal stank. There's one recorded case of a man stealing old boots from a burial site and being forced to wear them, still rotting, for an entire month. Needless to say, he did not try it again. So yeah, in ancient China, crime didn't just not pay, it reeked. Number 2, wearing a giant wooden rosary. Confession time. Literally. In 17th century Spain, if you were caught skipping church, disrespecting a priest, or even thinking too critically about the Bible, the Inquisition might sentence you to wear a massive wooden rosary around your neck in public for a week, or 2, or until your spine gave out. This wasn't a cute accessory. It was often 30 pounds of hardwood beads, some bigger than apples. It hung down to your knees and made every step a test of your neck muscles and dignity. You weren't allowed to take it off, just not even to sleep. People would point, mock, or spit at you in the street, and if you tried to hide at home, surprise, the local priest would show up and drag you back outside. The goal wasn't repentance. It was humiliation wrapped in religious guilt and a neck injury. Some versions came with built-in bells so everyone heard you coming, just in case the enormous rosary wasn't attention-grabbing enough. And if you complained, they'd add a paper hat with "Heretic" written on it in giant red letters. It was like wearing the world's most painful bling, except instead of flexing, you were repenting. Number 1. Duck feet boots for lazy workers. In 18th century Russia, the Tsar's military had a creative way of dealing with slackers, especially those who liked to nap on duty or mysteriously forget their assignments. Instead of firing you, they'd just destroy your dignity by making you wear giant wooden boots shaped like duck feet and parade around the barracks. These weren't goofy slippers from a novelty shop. These were heavy, hand-carved monstrosities that could weigh up to 15 pounds per boot. Designed to be as loud, awkward, and humiliating as humanly possible, they forced the wearer to wobble, shuffle, and clomp like an angry toddler in flippers. You weren't just being punished. You were the entertainment. Soldiers would line up to watch the poor soul quack step back and forth across the courtyard, often while being mocked by fellow troops or pelted with breadcrumbs. Some officers reportedly added bells or carved little duck faces onto the front for extra flair, and, in at least one account, a superior officer rigged the boots to squeak loudly with every step, just to ensure everyone noticed. The symbolism was loud and clear. You acted like a lazy animal, now you're gonna walk like one too, and with any luck, you'll never sleep through roll call again. Thank you for watching and sticking till the end. We've got plenty more videos coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. See you in the next one.